Joe Orth and I are starting a podcast. What should we call it?
Hey, don't pick on me. You know why? Because this is why. Let's see what he says.
The Joe Show?
Give Joe the business?
That's right.
Cup of Joe.
Cup of Joe.
What is happening here?
Would you listen?
We'll give you a chance.
Thank you. That's Joe.
That's Rooster.
And this is the Together We Shall podcast, episode 51. You know that we made it to 51, and you know that means that we can't stop. We can't stop anytime soon. I mean, if we would have just stopped at 50, but I think, at least 75, but you got to go to 100 at this point, don't you?
Yeah. You have to go to at least 75, I think. But, you could also go to 55. I don't know.
Ooh, there you go. That's cool. Well, welcome to May. It is that fun part of the year where we kind of start moving past those allergies, but at the same time, depends on where you live. Man, I can feel it in my throat just as I'm talking here. May is an exciting time of the year for the kiddos too. And in most communities, kids are starting to look at that calendar and think about getting out of school later this month or next month. That's exciting. When you think back to being a youngster, what do you think when I say May? Like, let's say 15-year-old Joe. I'm so curious where you're going to get.
15's a youngster. 15's I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably not. How about anywhere between 9 and 14-year-old Joe, which is a big window, I know. And I say it's May.
Man, yeah, schools get approaching getting out, but then 14 to 18, it's finals, and I've done nothing for the last 7 months in school. How am I going to get through these things?
I love the transparency. Yeah. Oh gosh. And then Virginia Beach, May time, man, that things start really happening. The weather starts really beautifying, and I don't know. And there's something about May, but then again, I'm born in May, so maybe that's why I'm making a big deal about this.
Yeah, I think it's just the Memorial Day to Labor Day time frame, right? Pools are open, whether it's your own personal one and you just got it open, or the community pools and the beach and Virginia Beach, that's the window. Everything really starts to happen. It's concert season, it's surfing, it's just the beach. Yeah. There's so much going on, and then fast forward to us as adults, and it's that's racing season. It's
yeah, and of course, if you're Sean Evans and you live up in upstate New York, it's May. It's not snowing anymore.
Yeah, they probably got to have, instead of April showers bring May flowers, theirs is probably April showers brings May shoveling or something. I don't it's.
Dude, seriously, what is I don't even. And then California wise, those people are just why are you even talking about the weather? It's the same every day. Just stop.
But it's been raining there, and they don't know how to survive. Mm-hmm. When it rains in California, our version of a Category 2 hurricane in my mind. They're all the bread's gone, and there's no more gas. There's no more gas. And I don't even know if you're allowed gas vehicles in California anymore. So
I can't keep up, dude. There's so many questions. I haven't been to California in a while. I need to get out there, though. Dan Cruz, man, he's insisting. But I digress. Why aren't we talking about the weather? Probably because both of us want to be weathermen somewhere or in our next life. I know you do.
Yeah, it's you could just say it might rain today, it might not, and regardless, you're getting paid. Doesn't matter.
That's right. Yeah, it's perfect. What are the chances of messing up the weather? Well, it's 50-50. Either it rained or it didn't. That's our sufficient amount of banter this morning. Maybe we should jump in and take the conversation somewhere more imaginative. This is the first time we've had a guest on the show where I wasn't the primary recruiter, meaning it wasn't somebody else hey, Joe, we're going to have Umpty Frats on the show. And Joe's yeah, dude, just tell me where to send the invite. Mm-hmm. In this case, you're hey, bro, we're going to have Umpty Frats on the show. And I'm oh, this is exciting. And I was do I need to do research? And you're yeah, here's the bottom line. And I'm okay, well, I know who she is, obviously, a staple in Eastern Carolina's ambassadorship. And well, anyway, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So without further ado, Jessica, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. So, like I like to ask before we get going to set the tone, who are you? Where are you physically located? And why do do you think you're on the Together We Shall podcast? And for that last question, I am very intrigued what the answer might be.
So my name is Jess Reagle, and I am near Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I think that I'm here just because of my involvement and kind of sharing with Ainsley's Angels the past couple years. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I'm sure that is very, very wave top part of the why. Yeah, for sure. And I did notice that we're using Jess today, even though it says Jessica at the bottom of the screen. So Jess is what your family and friends and loved ones call you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can work with Jess, but I have a feeling that a lot of people in this world don't call you Jess. What is that other name that you go by every day?
A lot of Miss Jess at the dance studio and Miss Regal at school.
Oh gosh. So we got Jess, Miss Jess, and Miss Regal. There's a lot to unpack there. So Joe, which one should we start with? Do we want to know about Jess, or Miss Regal?
Oh, I don't think Miss Jess or Miss Regal would be there without Jess. So probably should start with Jess.
I love the logic. So you want to take us back and set the tone for prior to arriving in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, which I want to, learn some more about that because, a lot of people I know were born there, live there, serve there. What's the story? Like what happened that's formative, that matters, that got you to Jacksonville, North Carolina?
Okay. Like anything, a lot of little things got me here. The final step getting here was we were at a job fair in Pittsburgh and looking at different jobs. And we had just finished driving through snow for 3 hours to get to student teaching and going through blizzards. And a job opened up on the coast of North Carolina. And I said, I'm going to go there. So
Yes.
I applied
Yes.
at Onslow and then got a job on Camp Lejeune doing the same thing.
I see. So Joe, the weather has a vote.
Yeah, the weather always has a vote, but there's not many people like in this world that would say, you know what, Onslow County, that's it, that's where I'm going. It's usually like the other way, like especially Marines. Orders are up, I'm gone. I need to go to California.
For the listener, like Onslow County is the county that Jacksonville, the city, is, and all of that surrounds essentially Camp Lejeune, which is the military base that the Marine Corps uses on the East Coast. And probably 50% of our listeners have been to Camp Lejeune. Namely, obviously Ainsley was born there. We've talked about Travis Mannion was born there. There's a lot of other people that we know that are our riders that have born there. Joe and I have served there. We've deployed out of there. Like it's yeah. In fact, just recently on Camp Lejeune, before I get into this, maybe we should do Miller time. Maybe that'll work well. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Miller time. It's that part of the show where everybody grabs their favorite beverage. If you're tube fed, you're asking somebody to hit the button to get the flows going. If you like water, that's your jam. Today I'm going with Monster, if you couldn't tell already. Jess, what are you drinking?
Coffee.
A coffee out of a cup with a J. That's perfect. I bet you that confuses people when they're like Miss Regal. But anyway, it's a J. Joe, what do you got?
I channeled my inner child, and I have hot chocolate out of a coffee mug.
Yes, friends. Yes, he does. But it's not what's in his cup. It's the cup. So for all of our friends that are watching on YouTube, you notice Joe's cup. And for all of your friends that are listening, Joe has a very large ceramic mug, which was a gift to him. And on the outside of it, it has 3 stripes up and 3 stripes down. And it represents the insignia of a United States Marine Master Sergeant, which Joe Orth was formally promoted to most recently. And congratulations and Miller time are in order. Master Sergeant, speech.
Congratulations.
Thank you both. I already gave the speeches, but shout out to Justin, aka Sir, for the mug. Like I feel like everyone has too many coffee mugs, even though if you don't drink a lot of coffee. In your house there's a lot of mugs. And when he gave that to me, I was like, yeah, I'll probably keep that one. That's a good one to keep. Back to the Onslow County thing, tangent, thoroughfare. Camp Lejeune is a third of Onslow County. 900 square miles is the county. Lejeune's 300 of it.
If you're trying to compare that to where you live, imagine if your county or your parish because in Louisiana they have parishes. It's Napoleonic law. It goes back to 1803 and Louisiana Purchase. I digress. Imagine if 1/3 of that county or parish was a military base, and that all the people that live on that military base or work on that military base, all they want to do is at the end of the day get off of the military base. so, so the rest of Onslow County is just populated every day at around 4 p.m. by a third. Anyway, yeah. So why are we bringing all this up? Because that's where Joe's promotion was, and 51 episodes of listening to Joe talk about his reserve time and why sometimes he's shaved and sometimes he's not, and all the journey of being a Marine. It all comes to this day where he's a master sergeant, and I just like to keep saying that. Most people like to say gunny, which is what he was, but for the people who don't know the rank structure, master sergeant is the second to last highest rank. So like, there's only one more possible promotion for Joe, and so that's a pretty big accomplishment there. So I want to give it the time and the energy and the acknowledgement it deserves.
Yeah, thank you. And it used to be the top, hence the nickname Top for Master Sergeant. But all this talk about the Marine Corps and Camp Lejeune, I feel like I just want to let everybody know, and maybe even Jess, that you can come run the Marine Corps Marathon with us in October in the nation's capital and finish at the Marine Corps War Memorial. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Jess works at Camp Lejeune. I got promoted. Ainsley was born, deployments, careers, but come run Marine Corps Marathon with us. Email Joe at ainsleysangels.org.
Well done, dude. So here we are, 15 minutes into the show. We got our banter. We did a tangent. We did a thoroughfare. We've basically ignored our guest the whole time. And now we're going to so now we're going to come back to Jess, and we're going to wrap out the Jess part. So Jess said she comes to Onslow County after a job fair because it was snowing in Pittsburgh. And what job did you find in Onslow County?
I took a job at Swansboro Middle teaching. It was considered what is self-contained special education. It's called a lot of different things, a lot of different places. That's not my favorite name of it. And then doing the same thing on base after I moved over to Camp Lejeune
Okay,
School.
hold on. So we got to explore this. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
So all right. What are all the names that people have used up until today to refer to what we'll call special education in a public school? What are these names? These things that you don't like. So we're going to put an asterisk by them before you say them. But I want to show the evolution, and I think there might be some there. So if you haven't realized yet, folks, Jess, or Miss Jess, as we're evolving into now, is a special education teacher. And I think that's the correct way to pronounce it or say it today. So Jess, Miss Jess, help us understand the evolution and why you used to not like what they called it and what you call it today.
Oh, if you go way back, you have like completely offensive terms like educatable, MR, and that was like in the 80s. And then
Okay,
moving
everybody. Okay, everybody. So she said educatable MR, which is mentally, and then the R word. So there was a time where we used to call the kids or the profession of teaching those with different abilities. We used to actually call it educatable,
Yeah.
mentally R word. Like, oh my God. And if you don't know what the R word is, we're not saying it, but like maybe Google it, or I'm surprised you're listening to this podcast and don't know what the R word is, but we move on. Okay. So that was way back, and then it evolved to something else.
Then I think it went into like special education, and then it was called like life skills, because then that's all they focused on was just the life skills portion of it. Because I know that even with the MR, it was split into like educatable and then like a job and life skills. So you're even looking at like people who were considered not even able to be educated, like through the 80s and early 90s. And then it went to like intellectually disabled. It depended on where you were too, like life skills, and then self-contained. Some people call it exceptional education. I kind of like that because I think it just lends to like the adapted piece a little bit more. A lot of the county schools now are calling it like the adapted classroom, and programs call it the adapted classroom. So
Okay. Well, that's a wow. I'm actually glad I asked the question because I think there's a lot of folks out there who have lived the evolution of these words,
Mhm.
but I also think it means a lot when you take time to kind of properly explain what a population is or isn't doing
Mhm.
at a school. I mean, the Marine Corps and the Department of Defense uses that word exceptional and the Exceptional Family Member Program or EMFP, which is the program that every service member has to essentially register or apply to under Department of Defense orders if you have a person with a diagnosis in your family. So you took a job in a self-contained classroom in Swansboro, which, friends, that's just north of Camp Lejeune, if memory serves me right. And but then you made your way to Camp Lejeune. So just like our former guest Camille Miner, Dr. Camille Miner, you have a connection to Jacksonville High School, or should I say Camp Lejeune High School?
LeJeune High School, yes. That's where
Yeah.
I currently work. So,
Okay. So
yeah.
Lejeune High School, and what is your formal title there?
A special education teacher, and it's LIMS, so it's learning impaired mod severe. Don't like that.
Okay.
um,
Wh-
but
Why? Yeah. So who gave you that label, the LIMS?
that's the DODIA name for my class.
Okay,
Is
so
that
DODIA. Sorry, Joe. There's so many fun acronyms here. DODIA is Department of Defense Education something
Activity.
activity. So for
Mhm.
all of our listeners who have no affiliation to the military, yes, the Department of Defense has their own schools and they're global and they're under the rules and regulations and the guidance of the Department of Defense's education activity leader. Is that right?
Yes. And they
Yeah.
are great schools, and they're all on the bases and connected directly to the military family. So that's who attends them. So.
Mhm. So, Joe, you were going to say something. You're doing like crazy research over there. I can tell you got like six
God?
screens. You're like, wait.
I went from one tab to seven like a minute. LIMS or the MR designation first teaching the contained classrooms. I guess DoD came up with one, but there's no like federal like this is what you're right. It's by I would even county. I think you said right, not even state level.
No,
What they call it.
yeah, it really varies. And then it's hard to connect with other people who teach the same thing because of that lack of consistency. It's hard to describe to the general public what you do unless you just describe the job because that's not a well-known title.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why you're on the show to educate the world on how all this stuff's structured up. So not really, but maybe. So let's narrow this down real fast. So right now, how would you describe your job to the layman?
I usually tell them I use the term special education because almost everybody knows that globally. It's just an easy one for them to recognize. And then if they ask more, I say that there's kids with different diagnoses in the classroom and that they need a lot of adaptation to the regular curriculum to be successful.
That's good. That's very, very well explained. Now I'm curious. A young person from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the snow at a job fair. I'm assuming you have a degree of sorts in something. Like, what's your degree in, and why did you find yourself like attracted to go do special needs education?
I have a couple degrees. There's elementary education and special education that spans K-12, and then dance portion of my degrees. Just
But just be clear, listeners. We're going to get to the dance portion of degrees because that's Miss Regal. We're not there yet. So we're
that
still
one's Miss
now on.
Jess.
Oh goodness,
For
I'm all
honesty.
messed up. All these names. So we're still on Miss Regal now. So we went from Jess to Miss Regal. We'll get to Miss Jess in a minute. Miss Regal's in the classroom. Why? Why are you doing what you do every day?
I think a lot of people get into anything like this because they have a connection with somebody, and that's what it is. My brother was born with tricuspid atresia, so he had open heart surgery at a very young age. I think he was 9 months old. And whenever they finished that surgery and he was in recovery, he had a couple strokes and things. So that's kind of what presents like that typical post stroke, the symptoms and things for him. But he was labeled when he was growing up as intellectually disabled, and he went to a school that was completely adapted, and it was really cool. I volunteered with them and worked there and had done some work with Special Olympics in Pennsylvania because of him. And then he had some really great teachers growing up. And I just wanted to kind of provide that for other people for that same good experience that he had.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And what's the age difference between you and your brother?
He's 3 years younger than me.
Is he still with us today? And if so, where does he live and what's his life look like?
Yes. So it's pretty cool. He's come into the class to present to my class because it's kind of like, okay, here are your next steps. These are some possibilities to do as an adult and like how he's been successful. But he is in Pittsburgh with my parents right now, and they come and they stay here with us for a couple months out of the year. He does some like vocational programming in Pennsylvania. They have really strong programs there for that, where he has like a job coach that they go out to job sites and works in a grocery store and kind of is involved in the community in a lot of different ways.
No, that's awesome. And I can't imagine why they would leave, Pittsburgh and come to Eastern Carolina 3 months out of the year. Back to that weather thing.
Yep.
I love pulling the string on people's whys because there's always some element that folks just don't usually find out, because I don't think that you often lead with, "Hi, I'm Miss Reagle and I'm a teacher today because," so there's probably a whole group of your friends that you've met down in North Carolina that unless they've met your brother, they may not ever know that about you.
Very true.
So inside your classroom at LeJeune High School, there's a lot of really awesome students. And one of your students is named Gavin. Who is Gavin and why am I bringing him up?
So Gavin, my immediate reaction to who's Gavin is like one of my most favorite people, but he is Laura Schuler's son, who is heavily involved with Ainsley's Angels and always has been. I taught middle school previously, so he came to my middle school class in 6th grade, and then I moved to the high school, and he's over here with me too. So he's like a second year super senior, so I've had him for a while.
I love that, Joe. Second year super senior.
Yeah. Well, he graduates next year,
actually,
right?
Yeah.
Joe was almost a second year super senior.
I was a super summer senior, I guess you could call it. Yeah. Did not get a diploma on graduation day.
So Gavin's set to graduate from the super senior LeJeune High School evolution at some point in the summer of 25. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. So who do I have to talk to get a guest speaker at that graduation? Maybe somebody that graduated from there.
Probably me. I can ask Dr. Carver.
Okay. Has anybody approached you with this ask yet?
No.
Okay. So if you go back and listen to the episode that we did fairly recently with Dr. Camille Miner, you will learn that she's a graduate of LeJeune High School.
I didn't know that.
And she's also one of our board members at the national level for Ainsley's Angels of America. And here on the show now, I'm asking Miss Reagle to leverage her powers that be to see if we can't get Dr. Miner to reside as the guest speaker over Gavin's graduation. And in my own little world here, that would be just beautiful, but only if we can get a couple extra tickets for the likes of Joe and I to be there to see Gavin receive his diploma. Anyway, so I'll just leave that there.
Just sprinkle that out. We'll see how much power I truly hold in a year. So
yeah. So Camille, she's on the clock. Anyway, you got to remember in the 501c3 nonprofit space, all the officers and daily people like Laura, you mentioned Laura, she's the vice president of movement. Joe's the executive vice president. I'm the president. Like all of us work for someone, and it's the board. And so, when your board of directors, has an opportunity for you to, no, in all sincerity, Camille that would be just so cool. Such a cool thing. I digress. And I might even edit out all that thing about working for a board and stuff, because then it makes it looks like it's a favor and that could get weird. All right. Like I said, if you couldn't tell, I'm drinking Monster this morning. All right, Miss Reagle.
And they keep saying morning.
Yeah, morning. It actually isn't even morning where I am. All right. So meanwhile, as you're navigating this space of the Pittsburgh girl transplanted to Onslow County and doing all the wonderful things for exceptional people in the classroom, you're following another passion. I'm only assuming it's a passion to be Miss Jess. So tell us about Miss Jess and what is going on there.
That's the other, yeah, it is another big passion of mine. So I came here from Pittsburgh and started teaching dance at a studio. I've always wanted to have a I really wanted a dance studio that had some kind of adapted program or was mostly an adapted program. So I taught at somebody else's for a few years. She closed and I just opened in 2014 in that same space and added in a weekly adaptive class that anybody is welcome to. It's not specifically like self-contained, this has to be a special needs class. It's anybody who just wants to come in, hang out with us, and kind of dance with us and have fun. It's a little bit lower pressure than like a weekday dance class. So,
So so once a week at Jessica's Dance Academy, everyone's invited.
yes. And
That's pretty
everybody's
special.
always invited all the
I,
time. Yeah, it's
yeah.
just that space it lends to if you want that experience a little bit more.
Everybody understands, absolutely,
Yeah.
everybody's always invited, but everybody also understands that there is a time when you can set the conditions to be more perfect for everyone, whether that's from a sensory standpoint, accessibility standpoint. And so what do you do at Jessica's Dance Academy that makes that 1 day a week that much more beautifully inclusive? What's different?
So that one, instead of kind of rolling through a curriculum or checkpoints in dance, I do whatever the students want to do that week. So they have much more voice and choice in that class. So the genre we do is their choice. The warm ups, things like that. It's just geared kind of back toward them, and it's more of us all working together rather than the teacher just leading the class.
How common or uncommon is it for a dance academy to do what you are doing once a week for all of the people of your community?
I think it's growing in popularity, which makes me very happy. I know that there was somebody who created a program and started kind of marketing it, and they're putting it in the studios.
And so in Onslow County, are you one of the only, or are you,
I
I
think
mean,
another studio does offer it in the county.
okay. And so if you're listening to this and you live in Onslow County, just Google Jessica's Dance Academy and once a week, go dance because why not? What does dance mean to you? Because I have a thing in my head that I could explain this for a long, long time about what dance means to me. But I want to ask someone who has a passion for it and has their own studio, like what is dance?
So it's an art form above everything else, especially for me. So it's a form of expression. I think it's a way to connect with other people and express for yourself to others, to tell a story, to communicate. I love communication outside of verbal. I'm much stronger in the written word and sharing something like that through an art form. And I know other people are too. So I like to kind of teach that to other people and share that with others. I think it's a very organic form of expression because it's coming from you and nothing else. Like there's no outside materials that you really need for it.
And you talked about getting a degree in dance. During that curriculum, was there anything like showing, teaching, explaining how to instruct a special needs dance class?
It's just a general, this is how you teach dance. And then what I did was just I took the two things and joined them together and created my own curriculum and program, however long, 10 years ago.
That's really awesome, and it ties right back into your description of what dance means to you. What I heard was a thing we talk about all the time here from positive psychology and Darlene's, our guest from episode 14. She talked about PERMA V, and inside PERMA V is that whole meaning, relationships, and engagement. And so if dance can if it can mean something to you as a means to communicate, and then through that you can actually have like relationships with a community of dancers or others or yourself, and then engage through that practice. So by setting the conditions, you're giving people an opportunity to really explore and execute positive psychology in their lives. Have there been any cases where people leave the dance session for the week and you will see an immediate like change in their demeanor for the better?
Oh, yeah. They're generally just happy when they leave.
Yeah.
That's not due to me. I really think it's like the culture of the whole class and everybody
Mhm.
and what they're giving. The other dancers in the class, the other students, my brother actually takes the class when he's in Pittsburgh. He logs in virtually, and then when he's down here, he takes the class with us. And at the end of class, we always end that one with like sitting down and talking. And I give them like a subject, or they just talk about whatever they want to talk about. But it's usually like positive and something. It's just a time to share. But I've seen that because they're connecting in that other way through dance during the class, they're all very comfortable with each other and they're willing to really open up. Somebody's had lost a pet and she hadn't talked about it very much at home, and then just shared everything while we were sitting there together. So I think that kind of speaks to the connection that you can create without the verbal.
Yeah, you nailed it. Movement is powerful that way. And I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and this episode's coming to you in May. And if you're listening to this and potentially in the back of your mind you're struggling with how to unleash something or how to tap into your inner mind in order to express yourself, movement, whether that's a walk outside or a roll outside, or getting involved with a program in your community like Jessica's Dance Academy to go with others in a community and move and feel the impact is exactly what Jessica just talked about. I mean, they're gathering together at the end, they're having this chance to express and to exhale and to release. And that's really, really special. And at its core, perhaps the larger point for why we want to have meaningful relationships and movement in our lives.
Yeah, I perfectly stated. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, I am no dancer by any means. But it's neat to see, like, when you talk about like the expression of like when someone that is like knows what they're doing, not, the tail end of a wedding on the dance floor type of thing, like be able to express themselves, like what's the thing like New Zealanders do, the waka or whatever. Hopefully no one's listening. That crazy like tribal dance. I mean, that just shows how far dance goes back. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
uh, longer than, what do we call it, written, dialect. But I mean, dance has been around for forever, and it's really neat to see how it's evolved from a tribal aspect to competition, right? I mean,
Mhm.
Olympic type dancing, gymnastics, dance floor, and everything. It's that stuff is fascinating to me that people can move and express themselves that way. Because I sure as heck can't.
What do you say to that, Jessica, when somebody says, I don't dance, I can't dance, I don't know how to dance? Like, I'm really intrigued by how you respond to that.
So I have two answers for that. I had a college professor, one of my dance teachers, Tom Cobb. He has since passed away, but he was fantastic. He said, if you can move, you can dance, period. And so no matter what, you can dance. And the other answer to that is I wouldn't have a job if you could already dance. So it kind of keeps me going. So
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
So,
And I can dance in my mindset again at the tail end of a wedding after far too many libations, but that does nobody wants to see that.
so I mean, yeah, actually want to pull the string here because Joe's talking about I can't dance, and I go to my phone and I'm looking for the video of him dancing at the end of a wedding, and God knows there's many videos of me out there in the interwebs dancing. And I will say that while sometimes having liquid courage or a little bit of help from substances can aid in one's ability to want to get out there and just be carefree, I think that the larger thing really is confidence.
Mhm.
So whether your confidence is fueled by liquid courage or it's confidence that's fueled by a community that is
Mhm.
setting the conditions for you to be able to feel safe in movement,
Yeah.
that right? And so I, I love that you're creating a space that is safe, that people can feel free and not intimidated to move. I love that. So hats off to you.
Thank you. I really hope that's what we're accomplishing together at the studio. I have a ton of teachers there who are wonderful, and they're kind of all in that same headspace too. And they come in and they teach that class sometimes. I have my TAs go and teach the class, so everybody gets a chance to kind of move in and out of there as well. So it's all their support too.
I think of dance and I also think of like singing, another art. Like I can't sing, quote unquote. And Miss Reagle, Miss Jessica, uh, She just shook her head. No, I can't sing either. But like, what does that really mean to dance or to sing? It's really all one word. It's expression.
Mhm.
And if you can express and through your expressing you can feel a little bit better than you did before you expressed, then you're dancing and you're singing, right?
Mhm. I completely like agree with my whole heart. Yes.
I will turn up Adam Duritz and the Counting Crows, and I'll turn it really, really loud. And if I'm respecting my community, I will do this in private, but I will sing it at the top of my lungs. And after 10, 15, 30, 60 minutes of doing that, not only did I accomplish something while I was doing it, meaning maybe some administrative work, maybe a workout, but I also leave the session feeling just re-energized. And
Mhm.
so I earlier in this show I encouraged everyone to potentially find a way to move. Now I'm just encouraging everyone to find a way to just express, whether
Yeah.
that's through walking, rolling, dancing, or singing. Miss Regal.
Oh, I don't. You said it so well. Like I completely agree. Because that's the important piece of it. You're expressing, you're communicating, you're connecting with other people. You're telling your story in a way. I love it.
Mhm. Well, I guess that concludes the show. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for I'm joking. I'm totally joking. No, so I mean, you have found Ainsley's Angels in your community because it's been there since 2012, about 12 years, almost 13 years ago. Can you take us back to how you first learned of Ainsley's Angels and maybe that'll be a fun story to share. I don't know. I don't know the story, so now
I'm trying to
uh,
remember. I think so. I'm pretty sure Laura. I'm positive Laura is the one who told me about it, and I run too. So she had mentioned it because of my connection with running and Gavin and all of the things. And I think I did a race with him at somewhere around that time when I just met him. Um, 10 years ago, 7 years ago, and
yeah.
so I just became connected that way. I saw what the mission was. I loved it. I continue to love it. I love watching it evolve as just our society evolves, and everything you guys are doing, and just continue to support that Saturday class. Instead of charging a tuition, we just give to the local program. What would have been the tuition. So.
So I don't know if everybody picked up on that. This weekly class that Jessica's Dance Academy offers, there's no tuition. And if there is a tuition and funds are collected, they donate that to Ainsley's Angels of Eastern Carolina. Like
Mhm.
I'm doing the mind blown thing with my head right
Mhm.
now and saying, how perfect is that? Like the way that you are choosing to live your life for others in the classroom, and you're getting fueled by their energy and their
Mhm.
learning and their advancements. And then you're going into the passion of dance and you're training all ages and abilities. And training's probably the wrong word, and then you're connecting all that back in with community engagement and supporting a charity that's close to your heart. Like how are you doing? How's your mental health?
Yeah.
Because
I'm good. I'm surrounded by a lot of obviously really good people, like being connected to Ainsley's and the people at the studio and my students, just the dancers. I I'm good.
and that speaks to community. And like if you can be engaged with community and have people around you that you are like-minded or fueled by, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that you're good. And when you're not good, because guess what? Everybody's not
Hmm.
always good. There's something there you can tap into.
Yeah.
Um, and that is right at your fingertips.
It's great to support somebody at their best and when they are good all the time, but it's even better to have those people who will support you when you're not at your best. And that's more important.
Yeah.
So.
No, for sure. No, that's great. So at this point, like I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to tell us some of your favorite Gavin stories. Because I know I have some that could pop in my head real fast. Joe has some. Um, but you spend more time with him than either one of us, and maybe more time with him than anybody that's not blood related to him. So tell us a Gavin story, if you don't mind.
So I do spend a lot of time with him. His one-on-one educational aide, Megan, is like his school, they call her school mom, Pancake. She is phenomenal and she is the one that definitely like has that number one connection with him. I get to enter into that a lot though during the day, which is fun. Off the top of my head, just like the inside jokes with Gavin are very fun every day. But one of my favorites, we're all Jimmy Fallon fans with the tight pants. Have you heard the tight pants song with Will
Keep going.
Ferrell?
Maybe you can sing it to us. Remember, you can't sing, so here's your opportunity to debut the.
But I also claimed everybody could dance. You could talk to like it should be able to transfer, right? And then just immediately
Yeah.
say I can sing. His pants were just a little bit tight. We were like helping him out. And I started singing it and he lost his mind and was cracking up. So then we all sang it. So he just likes to sing that all the time now. And we made a video of us doing the song and a dance together. So that's one
Oh
of my
gosh,
favorites.
I love that. Where's the video live? Is it like on Instagram, YouTube? Is it a reel? What is it?
It lives on Facebook. It's probably
Okay.
like 6 or 7 years old.
All right. Well, if you can screen capture some of it and text it to us, we'd love to include it in our Together We Shall podcast Instagram channel when we promote this episode. The listeners have to see the tight pants dance. Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because my moments in my mind of Gavin always circle back to a time when he does laugh aloud or smile big or do something to express. And when he expresses, it's contagious. Like
Yeah.
it's real. Yeah. I love that.
His expressions, whether it's him verbally saying it or he can do some gestures, right, from Top Gun. Him and I communicate like that,
Mm.
probably far too often. He's one of a kind. That is for sure. Was in his house, a couple weeks ago, just chatting with him, and like the even when he's sick, like he expresses how sick he may be or is, but like that dude doesn't like let things get him down. You know what I mean? And that's what one of the resiliency that he has is talk about the son of a Marine type of thing. Like he's got it for sure.
He does. I
Yeah.
agree.
Spot on, Gavin. Hope you're enjoying us talking about you because I know your mom's got this speaker close to you listening to Miss Reagle and Silly Rooster. And I don't know, does he call you Uncle Joe? I don't even know if are you Joe? You're just G.I. Joe. It's G.I. Joe.
No, it's not G.I. Joe. It's G and Joe. We have custom
Okay.
shirts, G and Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm aware. I like to push your buttons there, Master Sergeant GI.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, I mean Joe and Gavin have done numerous races together to include the 26.2 Marine Corps Marathon that Joe spoke about earlier. So if that's something you want to do this year, listener, Joe already invited you, but I never have. So here's your invitation, 49th annual. Come join us. Have you had a chance since years ago, Jess, to push Gavin in a race? I think you said you did once. Is this something you've done recently?
Yeah, we just did. So he finished out the MCJROTC program at our high school. Did fantastic, great program, wonderful. He went through the whole thing, and they joined them in the Ainsley's Angels run. That was the most recent one we've done. The Run with Your Heart at the beginning of March. So I was with him in formation with some of the cadets here, and we kind of switched off because everybody wanted a chance to hang out with him. So we
Yeah.
just did one together.
Oh, that's awesome. I've actually had a chance to do that as well at the Run with Your Heart with Gavin and his Marine Corps ROTC crew. Really cool to see what they've done with that, Joe, huh? Seeing those guys all come together from his class and man.
It really is. And like, I mean, you take like fostering all inclusive communities and you just really dig into what that is between the mission of Ainsley's Angels, what Jess is doing as a teacher, what Jess is doing as a dancer, Gavin and his ROTC folks coming out. I mean, it's so cool to see Gavin. Rooster's done it, on other bases as well. But like when you see these cadets pushing an Angel Rider around a base or Marines in green on green, it's like that's pretty powerful, when you got guidons and American flags and Marine Corps flags and Carly, Gavin's older sister, involved in it as well. Like it's pretty neat. And the showing that those cadets had at Run with Your Heart this year was truly special. I mean, 60 some odd cadets out there running, volunteering, helping. Man, like Jacksonville crushed the community feeling for sure.
And so if you're listening to this and you know that there is a junior ROTC, whether it's Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, any of the services in your local high school, what an opportunity to reach out and connect and introduce Ainsley's Angels to them, and then truly foster an all exclusive experience where they can all go do a 5K together. And here's the deal, it's free. It's free. If an Angel athlete goes to the session and they do it as part of their physical training, like Gavin's done that numerous times, right, Jess?
One of my favorite memories with Gavin running with the cadets was the first time we saw him with everybody. I was still at the middle school at Rooster, and his one-on-one aide Megan called and said, "We're about to run by the school, come on out." And I took the whole class who all knew Gavin, and we all ran out and we saw all the cadets running together down Stone Street, which is on the base right in front of the school, and Gavin with them. And it was just like this beautiful, inclusive, like just wonderful moment. And when we all cheered him
Yeah.
on. It was good.
I absolutely love that. And you painted it really well. I have a vision for how that went and the education that was occurring, but just by witnessing, by paying witness to action, to inclusion. Do you imagine a time where that isn't awesome, but rather normal?
I would love that. I do
Yeah.
imagine that happening eventually. I think we're getting closer to it. I think we're inching slowly toward it. But the next generation of kids, as much as people have their opinions about them, they are the most like accepting, inclusive. They want to be involved with other people. They want to understand all the different ins and outs of everybody, not just like the special education class, but each other. I just feel like there's such an accepting group overall. They really are.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. And having, raised two kids that are now young adults and have, obviously grew up with Ainsley up to a point, but at the same time, like I've seen that continue in all of their life, not just like you said, not just in the special needs acceptance space, but acceptance across the board and trying to understand perspective more. What what do we attribute that to? Because we need more of that. Like, is this generation just kind of wired a certain way? No, there's something else. What do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's finally trickling down from how they're being guided and raised at home. So I think that's made a big difference. And then another one that's so two-sided is social media and the access to all of this information and all of these other opinions and perspectives. Because at the end of the day, you're just getting a lot of different perspectives on social media when you watch anything, even if it's 30 seconds. But if they're in the right algorithm and they're looking at the right stuff, they're getting all these interesting perspectives about acceptance, inclusion, social justice. So many of them are into like social justice issues. I just think it's moving in a good direction. It just needs to stay there in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowledge is power. And the more that we can educate folks to achieve understanding for different perspectives, the closer we can get to a knowledge or an educated community.
Mhm.
And that's just important, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I think the like finding the correct algorithm, like you said, in your social feed is awesome, and it's cool to think that like, yeah, this generation is doing it, but it's our generation, that's impacted them. But where
Mhm.
social media really comes into play is not everyone that is so accepting and welcoming and belonging now had that from a parent standpoint. There's God only knows the number, right? But there's a big percentage I would imagine that got it from the right algorithm on social media by saying, "Hey, my mom, dad, caretaker, they're saying this," because we all know there's parents that are saying X, and then kids seeing Y, and it's like, I like Y better. I'm gonna go that
Mhm.
way. Um, so in the world of the talk about the weather and the 50-50, well, social media is 50-50 as well. Like if you get in that right algorithm, it's awesome. Especially when it comes to like buying stuff. You can just Amazon swipe right, but if you get in that wrong algorithm for whatever, it could be a dark path for sure.
Gosh, there's so much to unpack there. I mean, because you're spot on. I mean, look at the State of the Union and what people will openly admit is a bit divided and a bit decisive right now. Like, is it as simple as the influence of the narratives that you're hearing? And some could say, yeah, it absolutely is. That's what's influencing you. Wow, dangerous. But today we're highlighting how beautiful narratives, if put in the right place at the right time for impressionable people to be able to change society for the better, that's worth celebrating. I mean, I know we could do a whole podcast on the negative influences of the narrative, but today we're not going there. Let's just highlight the beauty of the narrative.
And that's like, I think Jess said it earlier on in the podcast, right? Like it was a bunch of little things that, or whatever, led you to North Carolina, right? It's a bunch of little things that are going to lead you to the right narrative, and it's not CNN or Fox or Instagram or Facebook and that only thing, right? There's a bunch of little things that are going to help paint the picture of who you are and what you want to do and be, and all that. And that's what's neat about hearing all this for the last hour, from Marine Corps cadets, teachers, dancers, singers, all of it. I mean, it's all those little things that are making what you do for your professions matter.
We're intentionally quiet, giving you a chance to respond to all of that. If you don't have anything, I'll gladly say some things, but I can edit all
anything. I love listening to you two though. So like that's been so enjoyable sitting here listening to you.
Well, only if more people enjoyed listening to us, we would be
our big Spotify deal is right around the corner.
You're one episode away. Yeah, goodness. I don't even know how to edit all of that. It was good. I love hearing people say they love listening to us, so I have to include that in there. But what I wanted to really say though is like what Joe just said is kind of common sense, but it isn't. Like it's actually kind of profound in the sense that something that appears to be really simple, that all these little things is what influences your mind and how you proceed and how you live and what you do. Like that's common sense, but it's profound when you look at it through the lens of today's information and how information comes into every one of our minds. And so a teacher in the classroom, what an influence you can have on those students and frankly the school, depending on what role you play in the school. So I would say that thank you therefore Jessica, Miss Reagle, Miss Jess, for all of the things that you've decided to kind of follow through your little things to get to where you are today. Because when you may not even realize it, but by doing the academy and having the Saturday and doing the things in the classroom and the influence you're having by exposing your students, all students, to all things, that is shaping and molding the next generation in a way that is key, frankly, to us evolving into a more accepting community and population. So thanks.
Thank you. I really hope that's what we're doing. I feel like beyond just teaching in my class, that is another big piece of my classroom, is making sure that we're connected to the other students and doing things. I run the AV program too, and like our communication stuff. So I make sure that's an inclusive, like kind of collaborative space too.
What are some of the things you're doing as the audio visual lead at LeJeune High School to facilitate inclusivity?
During our homeroom kind of time, it's called seminar. I just pick some regular ed kids to come in and be with us, which wouldn't typically happen because it's usually just all my kids together. But they come into our room and then we all go record together, and they do like a news show for our social media, and they do a podcast and interview different teachers. And I think they do like a little Instagram reel type thing too. But they're working together and kind of getting to know each other on a more organic level than like an assigned buddy lunch system, which are great in those spaces. But this one works for us very well.
Whoa. I mean, wow. Like shit. Where was that 40 years ago? Like that's that's the ingenuity that this generation of teachers has to do, as difficult as it might be. And I know you might have hit some walls trying to set something like that up to make that happen, but that's way different than the hallways that the three of us walk through in school.
Yeah.
The learning disability classroom, the speech education classroom, those were down at the other end of the school. And occasionally you'd see someone in the hallway that may not present exactly like you, or hear something in the lunchroom. But what you've done here is taken it well beyond the imagination, frankly, or you've brought imagination to reality. Who was that your idea to like bring regular ed in the classroom and do AV things together and incorporate social media and podcasts? Is that your thing, or did you learn that somewhere else?
Yeah, it was just another instance of me kind of putting together things that I enjoyed. I saw an opportunity, is mostly what it was. It was this opportunity that it didn't exist and we could put something there, which was the news show. Nobody was using it. Nobody was using the equipment. So I thought that it would be a good chance to get everybody together and have them in that same space together.
Joe, that's inclusion without limits, dude. Well beyond.
That hands-on learning, like the trade school type thing, right? That those kids may not get to go to, but they can still learn about it and the comfort and safety of their school, and then bringing the buddies in is awesome. Like that's I think that like buddy program that schools are doing these days where like, oh, and my oldest is in kindergarten, he gets an eighth grader that comes in I think once or twice a week, and they do stuff together. Like he loves that. It's like great.
Yeah.
It's a break from the teacher, and it's a break from mom and dad, and it's like that big kid of America type thing all over again. Like just showing that like, hey, this is going to be you one day, and this is how I got here, in that school system is awesome for sure.
And in some cases, are you bringing together uh, peers?
Yeah. I tried to do it in a way that it wasn't like you're assigned to this person and you guys are going to be friends now. So we kind of
Yeah.
brought them into the room, let the kids get comfortable around everybody else. And my kids who are interested in recording and filming and doing those things, they go down to the recording room with us and they're with the regular ed kids we've brought in. And the other ones who don't want to don't have to. No one's like forced into anything. But at the end of the day, everybody's like experienced each other, they know each other, they've seen all the facets of everybody and kind of a range of things, and it's just normal for everything is normal for everybody in there, which I really like.
That's the key. Everything's normal for everybody that's there. It's just normal. That's perfect. That is when you don't have to talk about inclusion without limits
Mhm.
because you've achieved normalcy, and that's beautiful. And so I would ask you to package this up at some point in the next 90 days and make sure that all the people in the Department of Defense Education Agency are aware of this type of approach to mainstream education. And I'm calling it mainstream education because everybody involved in this normal approach that you just offered, it's mainstreaming everyone.
Right.
So I just think there's a lot of lessons to be learned, and I don't know that this is something that's being fully explored by your peers across DAEA, or frankly, the United States public school system. So I don't know. I want to amplify this, and if there's anything we can do with our platforms to amplify it more than having you on here talking about it, um, give us something we can share. Maybe a video of this happening. Obviously, you got concerns with people's faces and likeness and images being shared on Facebook. But if there's anything that you can give us that we can share on our Together We Shall podcast Instagram channel, or frankly our Angels of America channels, to highlight this normalcy, this mainstreaming, help us tell the story.
Okay, I would love to do that. I can send you an episode of our news. I mean, that's easy. You could just kind of see everybody working together on it. And I think they're in the background too, so maybe we could do some background stuff. But I would love to share that, and I hope a lot of people are leaning toward it. I think again, like the younger generation is kind of coming in with that more inclusive acceptance. Like we're going to adapt things to make everything and like the universal design kind of outlook on things. So I think there's lots of cool stuff happening. That's like our cool thing here, but everybody's kind of doing their own thing and making it their own.
Well, I think, and that's if you find your cool thing and put
Mhm.
everything into it, it'll turn into not just your cool thing.
Mhm.
I mean, that's like if you water it, it'll grow type of
Yeah.
comment. But I mean, it's like I remember hearing about Biddy and Bo's coffee,
Mhm.
years ago, and now I don't even know how many stores they have. Like over 10 now, I think. Like they put their effort into their thing, and then everyone else liked it and was like, well, that's cool. I mean, let's put it here. I mean, they're in office buildings in Wilmington.
Yeah, formalizing that. And so, yeah, we'd love to get with anything you have to offer to us with some explanation that goes with it. So what you're about to watch is made because of this, and this is how it all came together. That'd be great. But yeah, Biddy and Bose, and I mean, there was a guy named Rick and Dick Hoyt, and they just put their all into doing some running together. And if you follow the lineage on that from 1972 to today, like it far exceeds any human's expectation for what a road race looks like. And the road race that's being executed is inclusive. Yes, there were some steps that had to be made to get there. And yes, in some cases, there's a limit to the number of wheels that you can have safely on a course. But at the end of the day, there's a whole bunch of humans moving together and expressing together because some people poured their everything into their cool thing, as Joe said. So keep pouring all your everything into all the cool things, whether it's dance or in the classroom, Miss Jess. It's special. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right, Jess, it's been a great dance. And I say dance because that's something I use to refer to the opportunity to communicate with one another. And well, maybe also because you're a dance teacher. But what do you want to leave the listeners with to carry out and carry on with the rest of their day?
Yeah, I love this. I really appreciate you guys doing this and taking time with me. Thank you. That was an absolute honor being here. So thank you. I would like to leave them with connecting beyond just conversation. So connecting in that organic way and a way through movement, however you can kind of get through to somebody on a deeper level. And that is going to lead to conversations about mental health awareness, and that could be the next step for somebody to start healing or start working through trauma. So it could lead to better things. Thank you.
You know what? I got enough.
He's in charge.
We're done. This was good.
Yeah, we're done here. The structure of this building has reached its capacity.
Find your people, and if they make you feel sexy, even better.